join 9 to noon's Nordo. Hey, I know that guy. At the grand opening for the new TGK Tire and Auto in Arden Hills this Saturday, noon to 2. Enjoy free food, the Firestone IndyCar, and giveaways, including 10 free synthetic oil changes every half hour. TGK Tire and Auto in Arden Hills. For full details, head over to KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
To noon, Nordo in for PA. Just a couple more vocal maintenance days for him. I wonder if he actually, like the rookies are going to report Sunday, and then a couple of days later it's the veterans. Does he physically report? Does he walk in and go through that process, Ben Leber? You think he walks in, it's high-fiving for everybody?
PA?
Yeah.
Probably.
Of course, why wouldn't he?
Why wouldn't he? He's got his little laundry basket with all of his goodies and his pillow.
Sack over his shoulder, extra pair of shoes.
And then he's got
extra pair of pants, to be sure.
Maybe the little flatbed roller with all of his snacks and stuff, all of his beverages. Yeah. I could see him doing that. That would actually be kind of a fun bit if he did do that.
Oh, it'd be
the
awesome.
Broadcast team is checking in for camp too.
Well, and you guys kind of did that during the draft, right? You kind of did the slow motion video bit where you're walking out with your headphones on, like you're about to bounce out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And I think he should do that.
He should do that.
That's awesome.
It'd be like Stephen A. Smith showing up to those playoff games.
Which is so ridiculous.
Who's got more swagger than Stephen A.?
Nobody on earth.
I mean, I can take him. I can leave him. I like some of his opinions. Some of his opinions drive me insane.
Same.
He makes a ton of cash, and love him or hate him, he's effectively the face of ESPN.
I know. I couldn't.
And he struts in. I mean, he's just like one of the players just walking in there.
Looks like he's about to drop 30.
I know. I'm with you guys on all that. Like, there's a reason why he's getting paid a lot of money. There's a reason why people like to listen, because he's polarizing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he can say something so ridiculous that you disagree with, and you just want to wring his neck. But then he can support one of your opinions, and he does it with all that enthusiasm. And you're like, hell yeah, I love this guy. That's the right take. But to get the walk up for a game that you're not even playing in, and to make it all about, like, ESPN makes it all about that.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't do that.
Well, let me ask you about this. And I'm generally not interested in ripping other media personalities.
Sure.
But I would say
we do that when the mics are off.
Correct. But I would say also that I'm not in the same spot or really anywhere close in the same universe as a Skip Bayless. So over the course of time, the talking head shows have really manifested into their own being. And I still have a question about, like, I wonder, and I've never looked, this is probably easily something I could look online, like what the actual ratings are. If you took, for instance, all the Lifetime Fitnesses out of the mix with the caption on in the middle of the day, I'm seriously curious to know how many people have actually sat down to watch, whether it was First Take or whatever various incarnations, Undisputed, or whatever it is that Bayless was doing at FS1. I'm going to say that Stephen A. Smith gets my respect because he loses his mind on stuff, and I think he actually believes it. I think there is something, at least because I gotta believe that the freakouts and the preposterousness, we have the preposterous statement tournament every year. There has to be an organic belief to get my respect in terms of the freakout. I may disagree with it, but in the end, it's organic. So how can I really hate on the guy? I think Skip Bayless has been in the intentional ire drawing industry for years and years and years. I can't stand it. And although I don't root for people, do your job. I just don't have to watch. I can change the channel. But hearing that he's kind of stepping away from it, I'm not that mad at it.
No.
I'm on team Stephen A. versus Bayless is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I probably am too, but that might just be because of lack of exposure. But to your point, I've never watched Undisputed. I've never watched any of those talking head Fox shows. And I'm not to say that I watch was it First Take on ESPN?
I think so.
I only watch it because it's easy to find. I'll just turn on my TV in the morning, and I'll, when Good Morning Football's on, it's usually NFL Network. That's a whole other story. Don't know what the hell's going on with that whole thing.
How about the network? I mean, the network and everything is just cratering.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Like, you're the NFL. You're a property that makes piles of money. We were just talking about earlier about, because of the Packers situation, we can see their financials. Like, the revenue that these teams are bringing in. You're telling me the league can't support a few broadcasters and a few studio shows? Like, what is happening here? Anyway, it's either NFL Network or I just flip on ESPN in the morning. Yep. And it just because it's on by default, I'll hear his voice and I'll hear some of his takes and opinions. But I can't say the same thing about Skip Bayless and what they do at Fox. And it's just not what my normal everyday routine is. But I will agree with you that I think when he steps away, and it sounds like ESPN wants nothing to do with him again. Doesn't sound like they're courting him back. Right. He'll end up somewhere. But I think he's going to end up further down the tube of people aren't going to pay attention. People aren't going to seek you out. I don't think that we're going to be missing an influential figure when it comes to sports opinion when Skip Bayless walks away.
You just fired me up for two reasons. So first of all, you're right. The Packers, the $400 million check that these guys get, all the teams get it. Tons of revenue in the NFL. Andrew Siciliano. And some of these personalities, I don't necessarily know exactly what happened. Like Kay Adams, now I think she works with like FanDuel and stuff like that.
Bring her back, please.
Big Kay Adams.
Yeah, just great analysis. Great analysis. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
But how in the hell can they absolutely crater their own network? Now, could they potentially sell it or what the purpose of that is? But frankly, after Good Morning Football, do a couple of fantasy shows. Keep Siciliano and pay him whatever you need to keep that guy. I've been watching him on Sunday ticket-related broadcasts for 15 years. And then you can just show the greatest hits, which you own, so that doesn't really cost you anything, and people will watch it. Something went wrong there, and it's a complete disaster.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand that part of TV entertainment that in our football world, and I get it, this is narrowcasting because a lot of the people that I'm talking to, a lot of people that I'm around, they're fans of the NFL, they're fans of football, they're fans of NFL Network. It's on everybody's TV screens in the football season. Now, I get if you want to take a hiatus.
Except for Twin Cities Live, weekdays 3 to 4:30.
Exactly.
Yes,
thank you for that. But, that's a morning show and we're an afternoon show. So
that's correct. No competition.
Yeah, there's no competition.
Allowed to coexist.
The thing is, I don't see how you don't prop up that show in particular and sort of give them what they want and what they need resource wise. And maybe I understand they're like, okay, we got to close down this New York studio. It is like maybe the rent and all this other stuff, but they're asking everybody to kind of move over to LA but it seems like there's a lot of mystery behind the show in general. It doesn't seem like there's been a real definitive like, oh no, don't worry everybody. The show is coming back. We're bigger and better than ever.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows what's going on with Kyle Brandt. I think that he's not going to be a regular on the show. He's just going to be a contributor. I don't know what's going on.
I kind of feel for Jamie Erdahl in that respect, too. She gets elevated to that spot, and less than 2 years later, effectively, everything's in flux.
Now, everything I understand, she did move out there. She moved her family out there. She's going to be a mainstay. But Schrager, I think he's still up in the air.
Really? Wow.
I don't know if he's going to travel with the team.
Man, I love Schrager.
There. So, it's going to look and feel completely different, and they keep canceling all these other shows that they have. I'm like, how are you guys not making money on this? Everybody that I know is watching NFL Network, especially during the football season.
Speaking of football season, back to the lesson at hand, at Nacho Leber via X, and I did mention it, weekdays, Twin Cities Live, 3 to 4:30, watch it as well. It's 9 days until the first training camp practice. Now, I know that people start reporting and such, but how pumped are you? Whether it's we do the Saturday shows, me and Saucy are going to be out there, but finally getting to cease the projection. What will we get to see? What this could look like to finally a week from Saturday getting to see it in motion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's definitely every season has its competition battles, right? And we will talk ad nauseum about which battles those are, who are the players that are going to be involved in those competitions. And it does become fun. It becomes something to look for in practice. Now, we all know that there are certain positions and certain players that are just, you're inked in. You're going to be, Van Ginkel, you're going to be in the rush package. You're going to be an outside guy. Grenard, we didn't bring you in here to not be the guy. Like, you're going to be the guy. So we know some spots. But the most important spot is quarterback.
Yep.
And for the first time in a really long time, we get to look at a true quarterback competition. And I understand that McCarthy's got a long way to go. It's his job to earn. He's got to certainly earn it. They're not just going to give him the job just because he's a first-round draft pick and they invested some money into him and all this other stuff. That's going to be really exciting to watch. And if it is Sam Darnold, if it really is, like he is, let's say that he is 10 steps ahead of where McCarthy is, what does that look like at post Kirk Cousins' career that he's built here? Which, look, guys, love him or hate him, he was phenomenal at his job. He was an elite quarterback. I still think that he is, I will always go down as the hill I'm going to die on. He is a top 10 quarterback in this league. All these other projections and all these ESPN deals and all these other things that have him outside the top 10, I think is complete BS. I think that he is a top 10 passer and quarterback in this league. What's that going to look like for us to go from him to Sam Darnold? I don't know. I mean, that's intriguing on itself. Then you throw in the competition. I think it becomes a really fun training camp to pay attention to.
It is going to be awesome. Now, I just go back a second. You do consider this to be a competition. And the reason that I ask that is just as things have gone on, I've felt that it's been more and more obvious that it will be Darnold. But how do you see that in terms of, I mean, if it's a true competition, that means that it's not 90-10 Darnold starts. It's not even, 80-20. That you're looking at it not necessarily in a coin flip, but there's an opportunity here for the kid.
Well, I would say it's probably 80-20 that Darnold's going to start the season and presumably, quote unquote, win out the quarterback spot. I do think that's going to be the case. But I think the intriguing part and the reason I use competition is because the door is open for McCarthy to earn a spot. And I don't think it's going to happen game one, but we all have this thought in our head that it's going to happen at some point in time in the season. If it happens halfway through. And I think the first building blocks of all that takes place at training camp. If he comes out the first week of padded practice and he's throwing dimes and he's throwing on time and he's anticipating and he looks like the guy, then maybe it's week 3 or 4 versus week 9 or 10. And I think that's what I'm looking for. I just want to see where this kid is at. Like, does he have a long way to go? Or does he look just as good as Sam Darnold, but maybe just has to get the experience of real NFL snaps?
And that's where. So I've been on the. I just need to see that it's real and what that thing looks like. Because reading through whether it was audio. Speaking of Kay Adams, Randy Moss was with her earlier this week, and he had some audio about this Vikings offense, and it's got some work to do, and there's a lot of unknowns, specifically at the QB spot. Got to run the ball better as well. But what that physically looks like, because whether it's audio from TJ Hawkinson recently, KOC himself, I've always felt, the way that I've interpreted myself, is that it's all, he was a winner in college. Basically, he lost like one game since he first put a helmet on. Like, that's all cool, and he's going to be a leader. But it also still felt like they were patting the 21-year-old on the head and saying, get to work. And he's a tremendous student of the game. You wouldn't believe he hasn't slept in days, candle burning at both ends, and he's got the playbook. But still, patting him on the head, little baby JJ, and that Darnold ultimately, it just felt like that's how I've interpreted that audio. And so that's where, in the idea of what you're talking about, just getting to physically see it.
Yeah, just to see it.
That needs to change my perception, because right now I do feel like it sounds like, just from being a professional, and Darnold, we're not walking in here with elite status quarterback in either way, in either case here, but I still feel like it sounds like, if anything, there's just a maturity gap.
Yeah, I definitely see that and feel that too. But again, I think because there's so much unknown with Sam Darnold that I think that's why it is a closer, quote unquote, competition, because we don't know what Darnold looks like. I mean, he hasn't blown the doors off at any team that he's been at so far. He hasn't kicked in that door, so to speak, and like taken over that quarterback position. He's had flashes. He's looked good. We all expect that, KOC in this offense is going to be, it is very quarterback friendly, and quarterbacks tend to thrive here, and they like the way that he and Phillips, the way they teach the game. And so we all expect Darnold to take a step here. But again, we don't know what that looks like.
Right.
And as curious as I am to see J.J. McCarthy really compete for this spot and try to earn this spot, I'm just as curious to watch Sam Darnold to say, like, okay, we've said all these nice things. We've said all these projections. We're looking at everything with so much hope and so much silver lining. Is that real? What's reality for our quarterback spot? That's what I'm excited to see. And that's the competition that I want to see in training camp.
Yeah. And we've done it and we've talked about it when we've had you on. I mean, we've played from Tommy Trimble to Justin Jefferson. We've played that game of, if it's ever going to work out, Sam, it's absolutely going to work out here, right? But is it, and to the point, getting into, I didn't see it as a competition. I'm also not disappointed, because part of that conversation I was having earlier in the week was surrounding the idea is he's a first round pick. He should play to what you were talking about is the idea, these guys need to play right away because we did put so much equity. And I would say that's the case for a Dallas Turner. Mm-hmm. Like, I need Dallas Turner to be playing week one and getting a ton of snaps.
Yes.
Like I'm all in on that. I would be disappointed. And frankly, I'd have a lot of questions if Dallas Turner was not one of the mainstays early and often for this defense. But on this side, I'm also, whether it's week 3 or 4, it's week 12 or 13, or it's not in 2024, I'm actually not disappointed if J.J. McCarthy is not in the mix. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And it's actually something that we touched on the night of the draft, was just, hey, everybody, let's be really excited about what this looks like and the fact that we are trying to find the true quarterback of the future for this franchise. But there is a sober dose of reality that comes with the fact that the guy just turned 21 years old in January. He's got a lot to learn. In the quarterback spot is one of the very few spots, really in all of sports, that I think that you bring a guy in, and if he really is going to be your franchise guy, then you're talking for the next decade. So if you've got to play the long game, then the long game starts now. The long game starts with the messaging and the expectation of all the fans out there realizing that we have to play the long game with this kid.
Yeah.
We're not in a rushed situation that we have to force him into a starting spot, because we've seen time and time again, there's a higher percentage of guys that fail in that situation than you have the CJ Strouds of the world that come out with the world on fire, light the world on fire, and just looks like a pro, halfway through the season. So, I think they're willing to take the long game, especially, and then that's why they got a guy like Sam Darnold, who has some experience, knows the NFL game, and hopefully he thrives and flourishes under this offense.
So when training camp practices start, people put their pads on. What is it that you glean from it? Not, just standing off to the side, watching. So we're going to be able to see, like you said, I want to see JJ sling it. I want to, and so those are some tangible, measurable things that you can see. Mm-hmm. Are there other aspects of these practices that do provide measurable results or measurable talkers and shine a light on something you're curious about? Or is a large part of this still kind of in shadows until it's the joint practices and actual preseason games?
Well, I mean, it is incremental, and I think you take a big step when you go from helmets and softies into full pack. I mean, when you put the full gear on, we've seen it time and time again. I mean, we're going to watch, and we don't know who those players are going to be, but players become shells of themselves when the fear enters your mind, and you are playing with fear because now that the defense can hit back. Now that we're going to go full bore and we can go full contact with some drills. We can't really take to the ground, but we can basically do full speed thud. Changes, guys. It always happens. And a lot of times it happens with ball carriers. It happens with wide receivers. It happens with some cornerbacks. Some cornerbacks need, they don't like to be physical. The second they start getting physical and they realize, oh man, I got to come up and run support, and I can't just tap the guy in the hip, and I actually have to hit. That plays with their head a little bit, and they're not quite as fast, not quite as decisive. Right. Same thing with wide receivers; they don't get the separation that they got in OTAs and minicamp. They're now starting to alligator arm because they're starting to look across the field and they see Harrison Smith, creeping down on a robber situation, now taken away in the middle of the field. Like, they get scared because now they can get hit. Happens all the time. So, Yeah, you're gonna see a difference in some of these guys, and then once we get into joint practices, where really, truly, guys want to take your head off, and they want to now hit other people than just their teammates in the Cleveland Browns. That's another step in this process, and then obviously once you get in the games, you really see who's got the mental toughness and who doesn't, and that's really what it boils down to. A lot of guys are skilled, tons of guys are skilled. Are you mentally tough enough to make it through a physical game and then, physical 17 weeks of the season?
That's Ben Leber in studio at Nacho Leber via X. And it's Nordo in for PA. And we're going to continue more Vikings/NFL related bits around the corner. I'm facing off against Leber in the Initials game, Invitational. So we're going to talk some trash about that potentially. The Rube parties tomorrow. We got all sorts of things to talk about. But first, Maxx Fuller has an opportunity for you to win some cash.
I do indeed, and I was given some bad information on that first keyword, but this time at 10 a.m., it is actually cash. The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword cash at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword cash. Enter it now at KFAN.com. Party makes its return this Friday. If you don't have a calendar at hand, that's tomorrow. You won't want to miss it. Join your favorite KFAN personalities, including PA and the man across the glass from me, Mr. Nordo, this Friday at Forgotten Star Brewing for a night of games, awesome prizes, including tickets to see the Purple and live. That's right, live music. Doors open at 5 p.m. Get the full details now at KFAN.com, keyword partay.
It is 9 to noon. A bit about Vikings training camp. What if Darnold's good enough to warrant an extension, Ben Leber?
Come on.
Well, no, I was reading. So I was reading. It's a summer of lists, and you mentioned it. That you think Kirk's a top 10 quarterback, and I'm actually, for the most part, when I was reading these lists, I'm kind of inclined to agree with you. I got to find it here, but Mahomes, we get it. Burrow, yeah. Josh Allen, all those turnovers. See that sticks with me a little bit.
He's top 10. He's not 3.
Exactly, and then Lamar's still polarizing. Two MVPs, so he's part of the conversation.
It's hard to argue, yeah.
But winning in the playoffs, Stafford at 5.
Don't agree with that.
Herbert at 6. And for me, Herbert's interesting. The talent's there, but he has the ability, and frankly, defensive issues have really plagued that franchise. Yeah. But still not sold on Herbert per se. CJ Stroud at 7. Tough to argue with the rookie season.
Yeah.
If he takes a jump, then we're talking maybe closer to the top 3. Rodgers still in the mix at 8. Tore his Achilles last year. Still elite. What do you think?
I don't know if he's earned that 8. How can you miss a full season? I guess maybe that's what they're saying. Like, he's so good that he can miss a full season, still compare the previous season's abilities to everybody from last year and still say that he's a top 10. I mean, I have so much respect for him that I would say yes, probably top 10, but I do think it's a little unfair that, like, you're a top 10 quarterback and you didn't play last year. So I guess maybe I'm just talking myself in a circle there, but I respect him so much. I'll put him on the top 10.
Don't worry. I talk in circles all the time. Yeah. It's part of the bit. Jared Goff at 9.
I would agree with that.
I think so too. Like, he's been fantastic, but
it's
then
number 10 this drives me crazy.
Yeah, Dak Prescott.
Yes.
And so when you were saying that last segment, and I had read it earlier this week, and I was just thinking, okay, so Kirk was in there's a bunch of text on, a bunch of write-ups on each of them, and Kirk was in like the honorable mention. And I'm just thinking, well, why is there no Sam Darnold here? Just tongue in cheek, obviously joking. But then it's like, what if he was good enough to earn an extension? But that stuck with me too, because right now, there's 3 QBs that are out there. It's Dak Prescott, it's Tua, in Miami, and now it's Jordan Love, who are all three QBs. I think Tua's playing. We're talking about a fifth-year option situation for him. Dak, we know, final year of deal, about $30 million for him. And then final year of deal for Jordan Love. He's going to make $10 or $12 million this year. They're going to have on a very small amount of reps, they might have to make a franchise-changing $250 million decision type thing with Jordan Love. That's crazy. And as a Vikings fan, we're hoping there's a massive regression this year and it all goes terribly, but it seems like things work out for the Packers more often than they don't, sadly. But can you believe Dak in that mix? And then behind him, like Jalen Hurts. Like, I would rather have Jalen Hurts than Dak Prescott. And you can disagree with me on that. But behind him, it's Purdy, it's the Kirks of the world, Trevor Lawrence. I don't know about Trevor thus far, but Tua in the mix, I think that's a function of the offense. I think you could take actually Brock Purdy in San Francisco, put him in Miami, and probably get similar results, given how Mike McDaniel runs that offense. But Dak at 10 just seems wrong to me.
Dak at 10 is very wrong to me. I think that he's a really good quarterback. And don't get me wrong, I really support Dak. I think he's better than people expect.
I'd take Dak on my team.
I'd take Dak on my team for sure. I have a problem with that one. I have a problem with, Josh Allen's a top 10 quarterback, but I don't think that he should be 3. I actually don't even know if I think Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the league. Number 2? You're talking number 2?
I don't know. I love Joe.
You might like his personality. I don't know. Whatever. I've watched enough games where I'm like, I think he's good, but I don't know if he's elite. You're talking elite at number 2.
Well, now it feels like we're almost, in some ways, I feel like we're getting nitpicky here then, because somebody's got to be 2. So if it's not him, you're not putting C.J. Stroud there after a year.
No.
You're not putting Justin Herbert there. Or maybe you are. We'll get to see now that he doesn't have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and all of that. You're not putting Goff at 2, are you?
No. Certainly not Stafford. Like Stafford, I don't think deserves to be a top 10 quarterback. I think Stafford makes too many stupid decisions. He's in the same category as Josh Allen to me. I think he can win you a game. I think he'll lose you more games than he'll win you games because of his decision making and his poor accuracy down the field.
I loved him. They won that Super Bowl. That final drive with Cooper Kupp was incredible, and that's a combination that connection to Kupp. But they did win that Super Bowl with the defense and the 7 or 8 sacks they put on Burrow. Yeah. Man, I like Stafford being in the top 10 now.
Sure. I think he can be in the top 10. But I think you start to shuffle guys around, and I guess my point is still being a guy that really supports Kirk. I'm like,
Kirk should be in there.
Once again, he gets disrespected, and I don't know what it is. If you go back to last season. Before he got hurt, we were talking possible MVP candidate. He was playing that well.
Yeah.
And even at that point, people had a really hard time admitting the fact that he was having a great season. And I don't know why people are so stuck on the fact that they can't give the guy his due respect.
Well, it's still, he's always going to be weird.
Fine.
There's a certain number of people that are always going to hate Kirk because he's weird.
Okay, Aaron Rodgers is a polarizing figure.
He's weird.
Both from a personality and politically. That doesn't seem to get in the way when people look at his skill set and what he can do.
Won a Super Bowl, statistical dominance over maybe a longer period of time than Kirk. Some of that goes into it.
Sure.
Won a lot more games.
He's got more equity built up into it. I get that.
Although I would say in recent times though, the way that he and Devontae almost like teamed up to lose that game against the Niners at home a couple of years ago in the playoffs. That was brutal, right? Like Rodgers specifically, it was almost like anti-game plan. I'm just going to go out there and throw it to my guy 50 times and we're just going to will our way over the finish line that way. In recent times, he hasn't necessarily had the aura of playoff brilliance.
No.
But Rodgers should be top 10.
Sure.
I think, okay.
I guess my whole argument to all this is that there is room for Kirk Cousins to be a top 10 quarterback. And I think that he deserves to be a top 10 quarterback. So some of these other guys, I think they get off on just name recognition, some built up equity. Are they really analyzing how they played last year, the year before? I don't know. I think that there's forever going to be a reputation stuck with him that he's a square, and people don't want to be like, he's fine, but he's not cool enough. He's not cool enough to be a top 10 quarterback.
He's definitely not cool.
Like, this is not a popularity contest. We're talking about guys that are so skilled in their job and one of the hardest positions to play in all of sports. Like, can we just decide how they are and rank them based on what they do on the field? Take the personalities out of it. I don't know.
Kirk's higher up the list.
I think he's higher up. I think he should be higher up the list.
So we agree Dak should not be in the top 10.
Yes.
Okay. I'm glad we figured that out. This all started, by the way, from just a dumbass question. What if Sam Darnold is good enough to get an extension?
Then you find a way to sign and trade him. You find a way to do the old NBA. We're like, we're just going to sign this guy to get the rights to him, and then we're just going to trade him away to get some assets.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because it's JJ's team.
It's JJ's team.
It'll be JJ's team.
It's absolutely JJ's team. Don't count out Sam.
Look, we all of us hope that Sam is legit.
Yes.
But we have to get the run game going. That's got to be a bigger piece of this offense. I think it's going to get a lot better with Aaron Jones, and I don't think that we have to look at him as the bell cow. We have a little bit of a running back stable, and I thought Ty did a great job last year at times. So,
yeah, for me, in terms of what I want to see in 2024, obviously I'd like to see Sam do his thing. All jokes aside, seriously, and I'd like to see JJ develop. When we physically get to see it, I want to have glimmers of what the future can look like with him leading the offense. I actually, at this particular moment, maybe this is stupid, I care more about the running game and how that looks than I do about whether it's Sam or it's J.J. McCarthy leading the offense. Because this thing has been, it's as much as we laud Kevin O'Connell, and we should love Kevin O'Connell, the rushing attack is nothing short of an abject failure.
Right.
And it actually, you can say Dalvin was over the hill. I don't think he was in 2022, 6th, 7th in the league rushing. And we take that out of the mix. Leaning on Madison was a mistake, a mistake that was corrected after this last season, of course. But whether it's third and shorts, it's our goal line, our red zone efficiency from 22 to 23 went through the freaking floor. And the tush push, getting out of that, I mean, that should never happen again with our offense. All of that is predicated our inability to just go up and be just out physical somebody for an extra yard or two. And we couldn't do it. We're not explosive in that arena, and I don't even need us to be explosive per se, as much as just something that makes the defense have to respect. And that, for me, even in I want to see JJ succeed. I actually care more about that than I do whether it's Sam or JJ that starts week 1.
Yeah, I think 100%. You're right on the head of that nail. Is that I think the one thing about moving on from Dalvin at the time back 2 years ago was, if I can recall correctly, it was a little bit of feast or famine. It was.
With Dalvin 2 years ago?
Yeah, it was like no yards, 1 yard, no yards, loss of yards, home run.
Yeah.
And so I think on the outside looking in, you're like, well, look at his per yardage per carry, and it's like, oh, it's a pretty respectable number. But like when you watch the gameplay, the running back position and the running game was not helping out our offense find balance. And I think it really was bad last year. Like it was, we couldn't get into a manageable third down because we didn't have a running game.
Yep.
And so it put so much stress on the passing game. So I'm with you. I don't necessarily need to see this explosive rushing offense. I want to see an offense that can, on first and second down, the rundowns, like, put us in a 3rd and 2 or a 3rd and 1, or put us even in a 2nd and 2. I mean, that's the ideal position to be in. I mean, we need to be so good on first down. First down, to me, whether you're running or passing, obviously is what sets everything up. And I know I'm just being Captain Obvious here, but we have to be better as a team at doing that. Whether it's the idea of a run, whether it's play action, the threat of a run, getting into 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, and then you can open up everything. Then you can run the ball. You can probably run for 6 or 7 yards, move the chains. That as a defense is demoralizing, and that gets you really back on your heels because now you don't know how to attack this team, what they're going to do to us. We can't seem to stop everything, even though you're not rushing for, an 80-yard, hit your head on the goalpost touchdown run. But the idea of death by 1,000 knives is like, that's what this offense can be. And then you throw in the idea that we can go over the top with JJ.
Yeah.
And then we can get Jordan Addison going. And then when we get Hawk back, we got him attacking in the middle of the field. And then you got Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield as well. So, like, it opens up everything else. But, yes.
We can control the clock. We can end games better versus these melodramatic one-score wins and losses we've dealt with.
And, by the way, take all of that away. Take all away the X's and O's. Yeah. And we should run better here. We should go over the top here. We should do this, whatever. Hold on to the GD football.
Oh, you didn't like the 31 turnovers?
I mean, come on, you guys. That's what killed the season. I mean, that of everything else.
Yeah. That
is what killed the season. And
I think we went 3 or 4 games straight with an opening possession turnover.
Yeah. If we can get to the first quarter of the season and actually be on the plus side of the turnover margin, man. That's gonna feel glorious.
Well, now whether it was Kirk in the top 10, it was. I mean, now we're getting really ridiculous here with our commentary. No, but that's the key to it. You saw the Philly game torpedoed by it. Opening possession against the Kansas City Chiefs, it was Josh Oliver gets hit and coughs up the ball. Talking about getting run rhythm against the Chargers, I've said it multiple times because I'm still annoyed by it. You run 5 straight times with Madison. It's like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, and you hit TJ Hawkinson. We're in field goal territory. We're cruising against the Chargers, and Hawkinson coughs it up when he was tackled. And it's just, I can't wait. I mean, take away half the turnovers. And the Vikings are likely a playoff team last year.
Even half. Just because some of those, I will as a defensive player, admit, like, those guys get paid too.
Sure.
They're taught to attack the football, and some of those, like, look, they're fluky. You're going down to the ground, guy punches the ball out. Hey, it happens. It happens, right? So take away half of those, and I believe that you're correct. We are a playoff football team if you cut down half the turnovers. And I'm not even saying that you have to pick up the other half on the defensive side and be on the plus side of that. I'm just saying, like, offensively, just hold on to the ball half more than you did last time, and you're a playoff team.
There we go. Thanks for hanging out, man.
Yeah.
I hope you perform terribly when we face each other in the initials.
Thank you.
I hope to see you tomorrow night at the Root Party. Will you be in attendance?
To count me out. Like, I'm a non-factor in the initials game.
I'm absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fine.
I played in the final last year, Ben. Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's just say, from a quality standpoint, you're taking a little step up in class. We got Pelissero in the mix. He's brilliant and he's tough too. Yeah. I faced off against him last year.
Yeah,
Amy Hockert.
If the initials are all just football names, he'll be great.
Well, that's what kind of failed him last year. Mm-hmm. There wasn't a lot of football in the mix. Then we got Lil B.
Mm-hmm. I just might be too intimidated by her. If she comes in with her game face on, I might just lose just because of that.
I might lose intentionally. Just don't get shut out. That's embarrassing.
I know, that's embarrassing. I can't get shut out.
Only the worst of the worst get shut out. There's no doubt about that. Thanks as always.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night.
At Nacho Leber via X, Twin Cities Live, weekdays 3 to 4:30. You guys are going to be at Jordan Tap House,
We're going to be
sounds like.
Jordan Tap Room today, 3 to 4:30. I think the doors open at 1 p.m. for everybody, so get there early. It is going to fill up. It's a big space, but, it does fill up, and they'll have to turn you away, and we don't want to have that. So,
no, we do not.
So get there early, and I'll see you guys down at the Jordan Tap Room at 3 o'clock.
That's Nacho Leber, Ben Leber, weekly guest 9 to noon. Some news around the corner, and then Gophers running back Darius Taylor, along with Blake Barrett. He'll be in studio at 11 right here on The Fan. News to Nord brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com for all event details. Nordo in for PA. Max's Meanderings is now. Where are we headed to first, Max?
We're headed to Target Field in a way, Nordo. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred was asked specifically about the Twins' ongoing TV debacle. And Manfred said that the Twins and other baseball teams could learn from a league-produced broadcast. It could solve a lot of problems. He said it's basically up to the Twins to make their decision. But he made the case as to why it should be an MLB-produced broadcast. He said more fans would have access to it when the games weren't on cable. The reach would be a lot better. But the Twins will get less money out of it. Thus, I think we got our answer.
Well, but the key to this, though, is I think this is like a Band-Aid ripping off situation where going into next year, if they're not making a move like what you're talking about, more league-controlled and or centralized broadcast, more digital streaming access, ultimately they're going to have to move away from the Bally's family. And unless somebody, the money situation gets figured out, and if it's still Sinclair Broadcasting or whoever it is, this is a ripping off the Band-Aid where next year they'll get less money. Maybe for the next 5 years, they will get significantly less money than if they sold this, continued to buy into this fraud of a deal with Bally's. But then the transition takes place. Advertising, clients, marketing, all of that comes into play. And then as that becomes a standard, more eyeballs will be on it, and more companies will be able to buy in from an advertising standpoint, and then ultimately teams will get the revenue out of it that they would be getting from a Bally's-like contract. So in the end, this absolutely has to be fixed. People will create new habits. I think more people are watching the WNBA. I think more people are watching other things. Not a bad day out today, by the way. So maybe more people are just going outside and living life this summer in some ways as well. It's a complete disaster. And we still don't, I still don't even know how much money the team got from this year to be a part of the Bally's bit. And so without being either an accountant, without being in the know, and it's certainly not my money, it does feel like that the team has to weigh those short-term losses with the long-term growth in terms of creating a new standard of how you create, you disseminate your product to your fans. What's happening now is embarrassing. So trying to kind of hunt and peck and say, well, we're only going to get 8 or 10 million here and we could have gotten 30 here. Well, that's a massive number. And in the short term, that hurts. So I get that that's a tough decision, but I think it's a ripping the Band-Aid off. It's creating a new medium and a new direction, a more digitized or digital medium for the fans. And it's the best decision. But as Manfred puts it and talks about it, it ultimately is going to be up to teams like the Twins to make that decision. And it feels like they made the wrong one this year. So hopefully they choose differently in the future.
Could not agree more. And we've seen some teams in different leagues take the route of put it in on free TV. I believe the Phoenix Suns do that. And I think the Diamondbacks do as well. Other teams have their whole own networks like the Yankees. So curious to see what their solution for this whole debacle will be. But it needs to be fixed ASAP because the Twins actually have a kick-ass team this year and they've made 0 new fans because nobody can freaking watch it.
What's next?
What's next is the Olympics, Nordo. Team USA routed Serbia 105-79 in their showcase yesterday. Steph Curry led the way for Team USA, scoring 24, while our guy, Anthony Edwards, put up a healthy 16 points. I believe he was 5 of 10 from 3 or something along those lines. Or maybe just from the field in general. The two teams open their quest for gold against each other on July 28th. So the U.S. will play Serbia once again to open their gold medal quest.
Yeah, talk about speed bumps. Now, with all of that said, I mean, we were joking about it earlier with Alan Horton. Steph Curry with 24. You said that. And I'm looking at it here. Yeah, he was 5 of 10. Going to need more from Ant. I think it was a lackluster performance from the team's number one option.
We need more shots.
I mean, right, he's definitely the team's number one personality.
For sure.
Now we need the number one option. I think they need to start thinking about, I mean, I don't know if now's the time to do a coaching change. But he's only getting 10 shots in this game. That's a little bit worrisome. Only 5 attempts from Jason Tatum.
Whoa.
Maybe there's trouble. See, there's trouble in the locker room already. Yeah. I mean, he's still kissing the Larry O'Brien. He needs to be focused. Wear the red, white, and blue. Let's be serious here. I can't wait for this thing, man. And Serbia is, speaking of speed bumps, going to be one. en route to them contending for a gold medal. That's so cool with Ant on the big stage. I didn't get to see, I haven't watched any of these tune-ups, save for the Canada game. That's already, that's a couple of weeks ago now. And they had the showcase and some of this, but I can't wait to see him on the big stage, man. It's going to be so awesome.
Man. It's going to be so much freaking fun. And interesting that Anthony Edwards wasn't even starting yesterday. Steve Kerr still playing with the starting lineups. Drew Holiday started over Anthony Edwards. Cannot imagine that is going to stick.
No, and Joel Embiid, 2-8 from the floor. Really just that he's not cutting it. He's not getting to the line. He only took 4 free throws yesterday. Clearly there's some sort of issue with him. Again, it's a lot of drama around this incarnation of men's basketball. Really needed to see more from Micah Potter, too. And so I'm hoping that after the game that there were conversations about him. Only 3 minutes for Micah Potter and Langston Galloway. What he can offer to this team right now, I don't know why even Tyrese Halliburton's getting 15 minutes in this one. But we shall see. A lot of things to figure out before the games start counting in Paris. You got one more?
I got a couple more within the same umbrella. Nordo, Caitlin Clark broke the WNBA record for assists in a game with 19 in the Fever's loss to the Wings yesterday night. Also, the Lynx, Kayla McBride put up 30 points to lead the Lynx to an 86-79 win over the Atlanta Dream. I also believe the WNBA got a new media rights deal, so lots of cash will be flowing in, and all these ladies will be getting paid a lot more, closer to what they deserve.
Yeah, as the NFL continues to blow up, there was the news the Packers get their $400 million check. That means 31 other teams do as well. The NBA, the reason we're talking about $300 million extensions for players like Tatum and like Brown is because of TV deals and revenue. And the NBA probably has been as good, if not better, than every other league at expanding overseas as well. China in particular, that's been a talker over the years in terms of the revenue, as much as 10 to 15% in some years has come actually from China specifically. So that's a big deal. And now TV deals getting guys paid in those leagues. That's the next step for the WNBA. That's going back to the Minnesota Twins. I think while baseball, in some ways, you could almost call it stagnant in some respects, players making a ton of cash, so good for them, and they should earn it. But in terms of their ability to platform this sport in the best way for national TV eyeballs to be watching on a regular basis, baseball still can't figure it out. And the WNBA, they've been losing money every single year in their existence. And depending upon